It was 9:47 p.m. on a Tuesday in March when I heard the words that would shatter my world into 1,000 pieces. I was standing in the hallway outside my son Michael's bedroom, my hand frozen on the doorknob, my breath caught in my throat. I had just finished washing the dinner dishes, my fingers still wrinkled from the warm water, and I was going to ask if they wanted tea. The hallway light was off, and through the crack in the door, I could see the blue glow of their bedside lamp. That's when I heard Jennifer's voice, sharp and impatient. "Michael, we need to talk about your mother. I can't do this anymore. She needs to go to a nursing home, and I mean it this time." My heart stopped. The floor beneath my feet felt like it was tilting. I pressed my back against the cold wall, my knees suddenly weak. "Jen, come on, she's not that bad," Michael said, but his voice was tired, defeated. "Not that bad? Michael, she's always here, always watching, always in our business. I want our life back. There's that place, Sunny Acres, about 40 minutes away. We could have her there by the end of the month." The blood drained from my face. My chest felt tight, like someone was squeezing my ribcage. I tasted something metallic in my mouth, fear mixed with betrayal. This was my home, my house. The house I had sacrificed everything to keep. But what Jennifer didn't know was that in exactly 23 days, everything would change. And she would be the one without a home. But before I continue, check if you're already subscribed to the channel and leave your like. And tell me in the comments, where in the world are you listening to my story from? I really want to know how far it has reached. Let me take you back to where this story really begins, because you need to understand what I gave up, what I sacrificed, and how much I loved my son to understand the depth of that betrayal. It was April 15th, 2018, when Michael first introduced me to Jennifer. They met at a coffee shop in downtown Portland, where she worked as a manager. She was 28 years old then, with long auburn hair and green eyes that seemed to sparkle when she smiled. Michael was 32, and I hadn't seen him that happy since his father passed away 3 years earlier. We met at Olive Garden on a Saturday afternoon. I remember I wore my navy blue dress, the one Richard had always said brought out my eyes. Jennifer showed up in jeans and a leather jacket, and when she shook my hand, her grip was firm, confident. "Mrs. Patterson, Michael has told me so much about you," she said, and her smile seemed genuine. I wanted to like her. God knows I wanted to. That first lunch, she talked about her childhood in Seattle, her dream of opening her own restaurant someday, how she and Michael were planning a road trip to California that summer. Michael held her hand across the table, and I remember thinking, this is it. He's found someone who makes him happy again. Do you know that feeling when you want so badly to believe in something that you ignore the small voice in the back of your mind? That's where I was. 6 months later, on October 3rd, 2018, they got engaged. Michael proposed at the same coffee shop where they met, down on one knee in front of all the morning customers. She said yes, and they called me right after. I could hear the joy in his voice, and I cried. Happy tears, I thought they were. The wedding was beautiful. June 22nd, 2019, at the Rose Garden in Washington Park. I spent $8,500 helping them with expenses because Jennifer's family wasn't well off, and I wanted Michael to have the wedding he deserved. I paid for the flowers, all 42 centerpieces with white roses and baby's breath. I paid for the photographer, a woman named Sarah Chen, who took 847 photos that day. I even bought Jennifer's shoes, silver heels that cost $340, because she mentioned she couldn't afford the ones she really wanted. I remember dancing with Michael that day. The DJ played "What a Wonderful World," the same song I danced to at my own wedding 43 years earlier. "Mom," Michael whispered as we swayed on the dance floor. "Thank you for everything. I'm so lucky to have you." Those words meant everything to me. But then came the first request. Just 3 months after the wedding. It was a Sunday morning in September 2019. They came over for breakfast, something we did every weekend. I made blueberry pancakes, Michael's favorite since he was 7 years old. We were sitting at my kitchen table, the morning sun streaming through the lace curtains I'd hung in 1982, when Jennifer cleared her throat. "Helen, we need to talk to you about something," she began, glancing at Michael. My son shifted in his seat. "Mom, our apartment lease is up next month, and the rent is going up to $2,100. We're trying to save for a house, and it's getting really hard." Jennifer jumped in. "We were wondering if maybe, temporarily, we could move in with you, just for a year, maybe 18 months, just until we save enough for a down payment." I looked at the two of them, their hopeful faces. And what could I say? This house has 4 bedrooms. I was living here alone, rattling around in all this space since Richard died. And Michael was my only child, my baby. "Of course you can move in," I said. "Your family." Jennifer's face lit up. She actually came around the table and hugged me. "Thank you, Helen. You're amazing. This is going to be wonderful." They moved in on October 15th, 2019. I helped them unload the U-Haul, carrying boxes up the stairs even though my knees ached. They took the master bedroom on the 2nd floor, the one with the bay window overlooking the garden. I moved my things to the smaller room down the hall. "Are you sure, Mom?" Michael asked. "We can take the smaller room." "Don't be silly," I told him. "You two need the space. You're starting your life together." For the first 3 months, things were actually nice. We'd have dinner together most nights. I'd cook. Jennifer would sometimes help with the dishes. We watched movies in the living room on Friday nights. I thought, this is what family is supposed to be like. I remember Thanksgiving 2019 specifically. I spent 2 days preparing the meal: a 22-pound turkey, homemade stuffing with sage and cranberries, sweet potato casserole with the pecan topping that takes 4 hours to make, my mother's pumpkin pie recipe that's been in our family for 3 generations. There were 14 dishes total, spread across my dining room table. Jennifer posted photos on Instagram. I remember because she showed me, scrolling through the filtered images. "Look, Helen, 247 likes already." But I noticed she cropped me out of most of them. It was just her and Michael, looking like the perfect couple in the perfect home. Do you ever notice the small things that don't quite add up, but you push them aside because acknowledging them would mean admitting something's wrong? Christmas that year, I spent $1,140 on gifts for them. Michael had mentioned wanting a new laptop for his graphic design work. Jennifer had been eyeing a designer purse, a Coach bag in caramel brown that cost $650. I bought them both, wrapped them carefully, watching their faces light up on Christmas morning. "Mom, this is too much," Michael said, but he was grinning as he opened the laptop box. Jennifer hugged the purse to her chest. "Helen, you're so generous. Thank you." But I never received a thank you card. Not one. The temporary 18 months turned into a year, then 2 years. Every few months I'd gently ask, "How's the house hunting going?" "We're still saving," Michael would say, not meeting my eyes. "The market is crazy right now," Jennifer would add. "We need at least $80,000 for a down payment on anything decent." So I helped more. In March 2020, when the pandemic hit and Jennifer's restaurant cut her hours, I paid their car payment for 6 months. That was $387 a month, a total of $2,320. When Michael's freelance work dried up, I covered their health insurance for 4 months, another $1,680. I never asked to be paid back. This is what mothers do, right? We sacrifice, we give, we love unconditionally. I remember one afternoon in May 2021, I had just gotten back from the grocery store carrying 6 bags of food I'd bought for all of us. My arms were aching, and I had to make 2 trips from the car. When I came in through the kitchen door, Jennifer was on the phone with someone, laughing. "Yeah, we're still at Michael's mom's place," she said. I know, but the rent is free, so we're saving so much money. It's actually pretty great." She didn't say, "Helen generously let us move in." She didn't say, "We're grateful." She said, "The rent is free." Like this house, my house, was just a convenient arrangement. But I pushed it down, that little hurt. I told myself I was being oversensitive. In July 2021, they celebrated their 2nd anniversary. I offered to babysit, even though they don't have children, so they could have a romantic night out. "Why don't you two go to that fancy steakhouse downtown? My treat." I gave them $300 in cash. They came home at 2 a.m., loud and laughing, waking me up. But I didn't complain. I just smiled the next morning when they thanked me for the great night. Do you see the pattern forming? Do you see how slowly, gradually, I was becoming not a person, but a resource? By the time we reached 2022, they had been living with me for 3 years. 3 years of just temporarily. 3 years of me cooking, cleaning, paying for repairs on the house, covering utilities that had tripled because they liked to keep the air conditioning at 68 degrees all summer. I had spent $47,230 helping them. I kept track in a little notebook, not because I wanted to be paid back, but because I wanted to remember what love looked like when I gave it. But I didn't know yet what it looked like when it was taken for granted. I didn't perceive when thank you stopped being said out loud and became just an expectation. But I was about to learn. Oh, I was about to learn in the cruelest way possible. Looking back now, I can see exactly when things started to shift. But when you're living it, when you're in the middle of it, those small moments of disrespect feel like isolated incidents. You make excuses, you rationalize, you tell yourself everyone has bad days. The first real sign came on February 14th, 2022, Valentine's Day. I had planned to spend the evening at my friend Dorothy's house, giving Michael and Jennifer privacy for their romantic dinner. I even bought them a bottle of wine, a $45 Cabernet from that boutique shop on Morrison Street. But that morning, I woke up with a terrible flu, fever of 101.3 degrees, my whole body aching. I stayed in my room all day, trying not to bother them. Around 7 p.m., I heard them getting ready to go out. I mustered the energy to shuffle to my doorway in my bathrobe, my hair a mess, tissues in my hand. "You two have a wonderful time," I said, my voice hoarse. Jennifer was in the hallway, wearing a stunning red dress, checking her lipstick in the mirror. She barely glanced at me. "Helen, could you maybe stay in your room tonight? We might come back early and, we'd like some privacy in the house." I blinked, confused. "I'm sick, honey. I'll be in my room anyway." "Right, but can you keep your door closed? And maybe don't come out to the kitchen or anything?" Michael appeared behind her, adjusting his tie. He looked uncomfortable. "Jen, come on, she's sick. I'm just asking for one night, Michael. One night where it feels like our own place. Our own place. In my house." "Of course," I whispered, retreating into my room. I closed the door and sat on my bed, my fever making everything feel surreal. Had that really just happened? I told myself she was just excited about Valentine's Day. Young couples need romance. I was being too sensitive. The second incident was worse. It was April 3rd, 2022, a Sunday afternoon. My sister Caroline had come to visit from Eugene, a 2-hour drive. We were sitting in the living room, catching up over coffee and the lemon cake I'd baked that morning. We hadn't seen each other in 5 months, and we were laughing about childhood memories, looking at old photo albums spread across the coffee table. Jennifer came downstairs in yoga pants and a tank top, her hair in a messy bun. She walked right past us without saying hello, went into the kitchen, and started banging cabinet doors. Caroline raised her eyebrows at me, but I just smiled and kept talking. Then, Jennifer appeared in the living room doorway. "Helen, did you use the last of the coffee?" "Oh, I'm sorry, honey. Caroline and I made a pot, but there's another bag in the pantry, second shelf on the left." Jennifer sighed dramatically. "I specifically bought that coffee for Michael and me, the expensive organic kind." My face flushed. "I didn't realize. I'll buy you another bag tomorrow." "It's fine," Jennifer said, her tone making it clear it was not fine. "I guess I'll just have to go out and buy more." She grabbed her keys and left, slamming the front door. Caroline waited exactly 10 seconds before speaking. "Helen, what was that?" "She's just particular about her coffee," I said, straightening the photo albums. "Particular? She was rude. This is your house, Helen, your coffee, your kitchen." "She and Michael are stressed about money. I understand." Caroline set down her cup, her expression serious. "Sis, how long have they been living here now? 2.5 years? About that. And they're still saving for their own place? The housing market is difficult right now." "Helen," Caroline reached across and took my hand. "I love you, and I love Michael. But that girl is taking advantage of you, and you're letting her. I pulled my hand away, defensive. You don't understand. Michael loves her, and they're family now. Family respects each other. Family doesn't slam doors and complain about coffee when someone's sister visits. We didn't talk about it again that afternoon, but Caroline's words stayed with me. At night, lying in bed, I kept hearing them. That girl is taking advantage of you. But I pushed them away. Caroline didn't see the good moments. She didn't see how happy Michael was. The third sign came on May 29th, 2022, Memorial Day weekend. I had invited my longtime friends, Dorothy and Frank Martinez, over for a barbecue. They had been Richard's and my closest friends for 34 years. Frank had even given the eulogy at Richard's funeral. These people were like family to me. I spent the entire Saturday preparing. I marinated chicken overnight in my special lemon herb recipe. I made potato salad from scratch, chopping 12 potatoes by hand. I baked brownies, set up the patio furniture, bought $73 worth of drinks and snacks. Dorothy and Frank arrived at 2 p.m. sharp, bringing flowers and a bottle of wine. We were out on the back deck. Frank was starting the grill when Jennifer came outside. "Oh, I didn't know you were having people over," she said. "I mentioned it on Tuesday, remember? At dinner?" Jennifer frowned. "I don't think you did. Michael and I were planning to use the deck today." Dorothy interjected kindly, "Well, there's plenty of room for all of us. The more the merrier." Jennifer gave a tight smile. "Actually, we were hoping for some quiet time. Michael's been stressed with work." The air got awkward. Frank cleared his throat. I felt my cheeks burning with embarrassment. "We can move inside," I offered quickly. "It's no problem." "Helen, don't be ridiculous," Dorothy said. "You've been planning this for a week. It's fine, really. I want Jennifer and Michael to be comfortable." So we moved everything inside. All that food, all those preparations for an outdoor barbecue, and we ended up cramped around my dining room table. Dorothy helped me carry everything in, and when we were alone in the kitchen for a moment, she whispered, "That was incredibly rude." "She didn't know I'd planned this," I defended. "You told her on Tuesday. I know you did because you called me Wednesday and confirmed it." Had I told Jennifer? I was almost certain I had. But maybe I hadn't. Maybe I was getting forgetful. I was 66 years old by then. Maybe this was my fault. Do you see what was happening? Do you see how I was starting to doubt myself? The fourth incident broke my heart a little. It was July 18th, 2022, my birthday. I turned 67 years old. I didn't expect a big celebration. Richard and I used to go to the coast for my birthday, spend the weekend at a little bed and breakfast in Cannon Beach, but those days were gone. I thought maybe Michael would take me to dinner, or we'd have cake at home. That morning, I woke up to silence. No happy birthday from the other room. I got dressed and went downstairs around 9 a.m. Michael was at the kitchen table on his laptop, eating cereal. "Good morning, honey," I said. "Morning, Mom." He didn't look up from his screen. I made myself coffee, waiting. Nothing. Jennifer came down at 10:30 a.m., went straight for the refrigerator. "We're out of orange juice," she announced to no one in particular. "I'll add it to the shopping list," I said. She nodded and went back upstairs. The whole day passed, noon, 3 p.m., 6 p.m. Not one word about my birthday. I made dinner as usual. Spaghetti with meat sauce, garlic bread. We sat at the table, the three of us, and they talked about a movie they wanted to see that weekend. I pushed food around my plate, my appetite gone. At 8:47 p.m., my phone rang. It was Caroline. "Happy birthday, sis. Did Michael and Jennifer take you somewhere nice?" I walked into my bedroom, closing the door. "They've been busy," I said quietly. "Helen, please tell me they at least got you a card." Silence. "I'm coming up there next weekend, and we're going to have a serious talk." "No, Caroline, please, don't make a fuss. They just forgot. People forget. Your only son forgot your birthday while living in your house rent-free?" After we hung up, I sat on my bed and cried. Not big, dramatic sobs. Just quiet tears running down my face, feeling sorry for myself and feeling guilty for feeling sorry for myself. The next day, Michael did apologize. "Mom, I'm so sorry about yesterday. Work has been crazy, and it completely slipped my mind. Let me take you to lunch today to make up for it." We went to a sandwich shop. He spent $23 on lunch and seemed distracted the whole time, checking his phone. Jennifer never mentioned it at all. The fifth incident made me realize something was very wrong. September 12th, 2022. I came home from my book club at Dorothy's house around 9 p.m. As I walked up to my front door, I could hear voices inside. Loud voices. I opened the door to find Jennifer and 3 of her friends in my living room, wine bottles on my coffee table, loud music playing from a Bluetooth speaker. They had pushed my furniture around. My mother's antique ottoman was being used as a footrest by a girl I'd never met. There were wet rings on my wood table where they hadn't used coasters. "Oh, hey, Helen," Jennifer said, slightly slurred. "We're having a girls' night. Hope you don't mind." I did mind. I minded that she hadn't asked permission. I minded that they were treating my home like a college dorm. But what I said was, "Of course not. You girls have fun. I'll just head upstairs." As I climbed the stairs, I heard one of her friends say, "She lives here too?" Jennifer's response, "Yeah, it's her house, but honestly, she's barely even here. And Michael and I basically run the place anyway." I stopped mid-step, my hand gripping the banister. They stayed until 1:30 a.m. I know because I couldn't sleep through the noise. The 6th sign came in November 2022, Thanksgiving. I had hosted Thanksgiving in this house for 41 years. It was my tradition, my holiday. That year, 2 weeks before Thanksgiving, Jennifer announced at dinner, "Michael and I are thinking of doing Thanksgiving at my mom's house in Seattle this year." My fork stopped halfway to my mouth. "Oh, you're welcome to come, of course," she added. But her tone suggested she hoped I wouldn't. "Seattle is a 4-hour drive," I said, "and I've always done Thanksgiving here." Michael jumped in. "Mom, we haven't seen Jennifer's family in a while. And you did Thanksgiving last year." "I've done Thanksgiving every year," I said quietly. "In this house, with your father, and now with you." Jennifer sighed. "Helen, it's just 1 year. You don't own the holiday." That stung. "I'm not saying I own it. I'm just saying it's important to me." "Well, it's important to me to see my family too," Jennifer shot back. We ended up compromising. We stayed in Portland, but Jennifer's mother and sister came to stay with us. I spent 3 days cooking for 7 people, and Jennifer's mother, Patricia, criticized everything. The turkey was too dry, the stuffing was too salty, the pies weren't as good as Jennifer's, and Jennifer never once defended me or my cooking. The 7th and final sign before everything exploded came on January 8, 2023. I had a doctor's appointment that morning, a routine mammogram. I mentioned it at breakfast. "I'll be gone from 10 to probably noon. My appointment is at 10:30 a.m. Neither of them looked up from their phones. The appointment ran long. There was an abnormality, and they needed to do additional imaging. I sat in that cold waiting room in a paper gown for 3 hours, terrified, alone, my mind racing to cancer and treatments and death. Finally, they cleared me. It was just dense tissue, nothing dangerous. But I was shaken. I got home at 2:15 p.m., emotionally exhausted. As I walked in, I found Jennifer in the kitchen, clearly annoyed. "Where have you been? You said you'd be back at noon." The appointment took longer than expected. They found something and needed to do more tests. "Well, is everything okay?" she asked impatiently. "Yes, thank God. It was just great, because I need you to watch the house this afternoon. Michael and I have plans." "Watch the house? My house?" But I didn't say that. I said, "Of course." After they left, I sat at my kitchen table and finally let myself think the thought I'd been pushing down for months. They don't respect me. They don't see me as a person. They see me as convenient. And what I discovered next would prove I was right in ways I never could have imagined. The breaking point started on a cold Wednesday morning, February 22nd, 2023. I woke up at 6 a.m. as usual, put on my pale blue robe, the one Richard bought me for our 35th anniversary, and went downstairs to make breakfast. The kitchen floor was cold beneath my bare feet. I started the coffee maker. the familiar gurgling sound filling the quiet house, and began preparing Michael's favorite breakfast: scrambled eggs with cheese, turkey bacon, wheat toast with butter and strawberry jam. I was humming softly an old Joni Mitchell song when Jennifer appeared in the doorway at 7:15 a.m. Her hair was pulled back in a tight ponytail, and her face had that pinched expression I'd learned meant she was in a bad mood. "What are you doing?" she asked. I turned, spatula in hand. "Making breakfast for you two. The eggs are almost ready. Helen, we're adults. We can make our own breakfast." The words hit me like a slap. "I know, honey. I just thought—" "You always just think. You just do things without asking if we want you to." She opened the refrigerator, grabbed a yogurt, and left the kitchen without another word. The eggs sat on the stove, steam rising. I turned off the burner and stood there, my hands shaking slightly. Michael came down 20 minutes later, grabbed a granola bar, kissed the top of my head absently, and said, "See you tonight, Mom," before rushing out the door. The eggs went in the trash. All of it. 3 days later, on Saturday, February 25th, things got worse. I was in the backyard at 10:30 a.m., planting tulip bulbs along the fence line. It was one of the first warm days of spring, 58 degrees, the sun breaking through the Portland clouds. My knees ached as I knelt on my gardening pad, but I loved this work. Richard and I had planted this garden together over decades. Jennifer came outside, her phone in hand. "Helen, we need to talk about something." I looked up, shielding my eyes from the sun. "Of course, dear. What is it?" "Michael and I have been talking, and we think you need to start contributing more to the household." I sat back on my heels, confused. "Contributing? This is my house." "Right, but we all live here. And honestly, the utilities have gone up. The water bill last month was 147s. The electricity was 203s. We think you should pay a third of that." My mouth went dry. "Jennifer, I own this house. I pay the mortgage, the property taxes, the home insurance. That's $2,340 a month right there. But you'd be paying that anyway, whether we were here or not. We're talking about the extra costs because there are 3 people living here." I stood up slowly, my knees cracking. "You're asking me to pay utilities in my own house while you pay nothing for rent? We're not asking you to pay everything, just your fair share, 1/3. The audacity of it took my breath away. But what I said was, "Let me think about it." She smiled, satisfied, and went back inside. I stood in my garden, dirt under my fingernails, and felt something shift inside me, a small crack in the foundation of my patience. But it was about to get so much worse. March 14th, 2023. A Tuesday that changed everything. I had spent the afternoon preparing dinner, a special meal, because it was the anniversary of Richard's death. 5 years without him. I'd made his favorite, pot roast with carrots and potatoes, the recipe his mother taught me in 1981. It had been cooking for 4 hours, filling the house with that rich, savory smell. I set the table with our good china, the set with the tiny blue flowers that we got as a wedding present. I lit candles. I even put out the crystal wine glasses. Michael and Jennifer came home at 6:45 p.m. They walked into the dining room, and Jennifer's face immediately soured. "What's all this?" "I made your father's favorite meal," I said to Michael. "I thought we could remember him together tonight." Michael's expression softened. "Mom, that's really sweet." But Jennifer cut in. "Actually, Michael, remember we have plans? We're meeting Brad and Melissa at that new sushi place at 7:30. My heart sank. "Oh, I didn't know." "We told you yesterday," Jennifer said. "No, you didn't. I would have remembered." "Helen, we definitely told you. You probably just forgot." There it was again, making me doubt myself, making me feel old, confused, incompetent. Michael looked between us uncomfortably. "Maybe we could reschedule with Brad and Melissa." Jennifer's eyes flashed. "Michael, we made reservations 2 weeks ago. Your mom can just save the food for tomorrow." "But today is the anniversary," I started. "And I'm sorry for your loss, Helen. I really am. But we have plans. Life goes on." They left at 7:15 p.m. I sat alone at that beautiful table, with the candles burning down and the pot roast getting cold, and I cried. Deep, gut-wrenching sobs that came from somewhere so deep, I didn't know I still had pain there. Do you know what it feels like to grieve alone when you shouldn't have to? To have your grief dismissed as inconvenient? I cleared the table at 9 p.m. I put the food in containers. I blew out the candles. And I made a decision right then, though I didn't fully realize it yet. Something had to change. The next incident came fast. Just 4 days later, March 18th, 2023. I had a friend from my church, Margaret Sullivan, coming over for tea at 2 p.m. She was 73 years old, recovering from hip surgery, and our weekly tea dates meant the world to both of us. I'd told Michael and Jennifer about it 3 separate times. At 1:45 p.m., I was in the kitchen arranging cookies on a plate, boiling water for tea, when Jennifer came downstairs with a laundry basket. "I'm doing laundry, so the washer and dryer will be running," she announced. "Okay, that's fine. Margaret will be here soon, so we'll be in the living room." "Actually, Helen, I was hoping to watch TV in there. My show comes on at 2. I paused. "I have company coming. Can't you just visit in the kitchen?" "Jennifer, Margaret has trouble with stairs since her surgery. The living room is easier for her." Jennifer sighed dramatically. "Fine. I guess I'll watch in our bedroom. But the TV up there has that weird glitch, so if it doesn't work, I'm coming back down." She dumped the laundry basket on the floor with a loud thump and went back upstairs. Margaret arrived at 2:03 p.m. We were settling in the living room when Jennifer came thundering down the stairs. "The TV isn't working. I'm going to have to use this one." She turned on the television, volume up high, and sat on the couch right next to where Margaret and I were trying to talk. Margaret looked at me, bewildered. I mouthed, "I'm sorry," and suggested we move to the kitchen after all. As we walked out, I heard Jennifer turn the volume up even higher. In the kitchen, Margaret took my hand. "Helen, honey, why are you letting that girl treat you like this?" "It's complicated." "It's not complicated. It's your house. You're the homeowner. You pay the bills. And she's acting like you're the guest. She's my daughter-in-law. Michael loves her. And what about what Michael feels for you? Does he see how she treats you?" I didn't have an answer for that. April 3rd, 2023 brought the worst humiliation yet. I had been fighting a cold for 3 days, running a fever of 100.8 degrees. I spent most of the day in bed, aching all over, my throat raw. Around 5 p.m., I forced myself to get up because I'd run out of tissues and needed soup. I came downstairs in my nightgown and slippers, my hair unwashed, feeling miserable. Jennifer was in the kitchen with 2 of her friends, women I'd never met, drinking wine and laughing. When I shuffled in, the laughter stopped. "Oh, Helen," Jennifer said, her voice dripping with false sweetness. "These are my friends, Alyssa and Tiffany. Girls, this is Michael's mom." "Nice to meet you," I croaked, reaching for the cabinet where I kept the soup. Jennifer wrinkled her nose. "Helen, you look terrible. Maybe you should stay in your room. We don't want to catch anything. I just need some soup." "I'll bring it up to you. Just go back upstairs." One of her friends, the blonde one, Alyssa, whispered something, and they all giggled. I felt my face burn with shame and fever. I turned and went back upstairs, my legs shaking. 20 minutes later, Jennifer knocked on my door and handed me a bowl of canned chicken noodle soup, microwaved. "Here, try not to make too much noise, okay? We're watching a movie downstairs." She closed the door before I could respond. I sat on my bed with that lukewarm soup and thought about Richard, about how he would have taken care of me when I was sick, how he would have made his special grilled cheese sandwiches and tomato soup from scratch, how he would have sat with me and rubbed my back. And I thought about how I had become invisible in my own home, but the absolute worst was yet to come. April 27th, 2023, the day I will never forget. My dear friend Dorothy, who I mentioned earlier, had organized a birthday surprise for her husband Frank's 70th birthday. She rented a small room at a local restaurant, invited 25 of Frank's closest friends and family. Richard and Frank had been best friends since 1987. I had to be there. I told Michael and Jennifer about it 4 weeks in advance. I'd mentioned it again 2 weeks before. I'd reminded them 1 week before. It was at 6 p.m. on a Thursday. That morning, I spent hours getting ready. I had my hair done at the salon, $85 for a cut and style. I wore my nicest dress, a navy blue sheath that Richard always said made me look elegant. I put on makeup, perfume, my pearl earrings. I looked nice. I felt good for the first time in weeks. I came downstairs at 5:15 p.m., giving myself plenty of time to drive to the restaurant. Jennifer was in the kitchen, and she looked me up and down. "Where are you going all dressed up?" "Frank's birthday party, remember? I told you about it." "Oh, right. That thing." I grabbed my purse and car keys from the hook by the door. My keys weren't there. "That's strange," I said, checking my purse. "Not there either." "What's wrong?" Jennifer asked, not looking up from her phone. "I can't find my car keys." "Did you check your room?" I went upstairs, searched my entire bedroom, my bathroom, came back down. Nothing. It was 5:35 p.m. now. "Jennifer, have you seen my keys? I'm going to be late." "No idea. Maybe you misplaced them." Panic was rising in my chest. I searched the living room, the kitchen, the coat closet. By 5:55 p.m., I was nearly in tears. I called Dorothy. "I can't find my keys," I told her, my voice breaking. "I don't think I'm going to make it." "Oh, honey, I'll come get you. Give me 20 minutes. "No, you can't leave Frank's party. I'll figure it out." But I didn't figure it out. I missed the entire party. At 8:30 p.m., I was still searching the house when Michael came home. "Mom, what's going on? Why are you tearing the place apart?" "My keys disappeared. I missed Frank's 70th birthday." "That's awful. Where did you last have them?" "On the hook by the door this morning." Michael helped me search. At 9:15 p.m., he found them. In the garage, on a shelf behind a paint can. "How did they get there?" I asked, confused. Michael shook his head. "You must have put them there by accident, Mom. Maybe when you were getting something from the garage?" But I hadn't been in the garage in 3 days. I knew I hadn't. And when I looked at Jennifer, who was watching TV in the living room with a small smile on her face, I knew. She had hidden my keys. She had deliberately sabotaged me. That night, lying in bed at 11:47 p.m., I made a real decision. Not a vague, something has to change feeling, but a concrete, steel-hard decision. I was done being treated like this. I was done being invisible, dismissed, humiliated in my own home. But I needed to be smart about it. I needed to understand exactly what power I had. And that's when I remembered something. Something important about this house, about the deed, about who actually owned what. The next morning, April 28, 2023, at 9:06 a.m., I called my lawyer. David Thornton had been my attorney for 18 years. He'd handled Richard's estate when he died, updated my will in 2020, and had always given me honest, straightforward advice. His office was downtown, a small practice on the 3rd floor of an old building with creaky wooden floors. I sat across from his mahogany desk on that Friday morning, April 28, 2023, at 10:30 a.m., my hands folded in my lap. Through his window, I could see people walking on the street below, going about their normal lives, unaware that mine was about to transform completely. "Helen," David said, leaning forward, his reading glasses perched on his nose. "Tell me what's going on." And I did. I told him everything. Every incident, every humiliation, every moment of disrespect. My voice cracked twice, and he handed me tissues from the box on his desk. When I finished, he was quiet for a long moment. "How long have they been living with you?" he asked. 3 years and 6 months, since October 15th, 2019. He pulled out a legal pad and started writing notes. "And they've never paid rent? Never contributed to the mortgage, property taxes, or insurance?" "Never. I've asked them to help with utilities recently, but that's new, and they haven't paid yet." "Do they have any legal claim to the house? Any documentation that suggests ownership or rental agreement?" "No, nothing. The house is entirely in my name. It was paid off by Richard and me in 2015, 8 years ago. The deed is solely in my name after Richard passed." David nodded slowly. "Then legally, Helen, You have complete control. This is your property. You have the right to ask them to leave at any time. The words hung in the air. Complete control. But they're family, I said softly. Michael is my son. I understand that. And I'm not saying you should do anything drastic without thinking it through. But you need to understand your position. You're not powerless here. He paused. Have you thought about what you want to happen? Had I? I'd spent so many months being walked over that I'd forgotten I could want something different. I want my home back, I said, and it surprised me how firm my voice sounded. I want to feel like this is my house again. David wrote something down. Okay, let's talk about your options. He explained that as the sole owner, I could issue them a 30-day notice to vacate. In Oregon, that was the minimum required for month-to-month tenancy, which is technically what they had, even without paying rent. If they refuse to leave after 30 days, you can file for eviction. It's called an FED, a forcible entry and detainer. The process usually takes 30 to 60 additional days, but you would win. There's no question about that. Would it be expensive? The filing fee is $157. If you need the sheriff to physically remove them, that's another $85. So we're talking less than $300 in legal fees, plus my hourly rate for drafting the notice and representing you if needed. Probably $800 to $1,200 total. It felt surreal. Less than $1,500 to reclaim my own home. There's another option, David continued. You could sell the house. If you own it outright and they're not on the deed, you can list it tomorrow if you wanted. They'd have to leave when it's sold. Sell the house. The house where I'd raised Michael, where Richard and I had celebrated 40 anniversaries, where every room held memories. How much is the house worth? I asked. In this market? Let me check recent sales in your neighborhood. He turned to his computer, typed for a moment. Houses on your street have been selling for between $485,000 and $520,000. Yours is well maintained, good size. I'd estimate $500,000 give or take. $500,000. For a house we bought in 1982 for $67,000. If you sold it, David said carefully, you'd walk away with nearly all of that, minus realtor fees and closing costs. Probably $465,000 in your pocket. You could buy something smaller, something just for you, and have money left over for retirement. My head was spinning. I'd never thought about selling. This was my home. But was it really my home anymore? Or had it become a place where I felt like a stranger? I need time to think, I said. Of course. Take all the time you need. But Helen? He looked at me seriously. Whatever you decide, don't let guilt make the decision for you. You've been extraordinarily generous to your son and his wife. Generosity that's been taken for granted. You don't owe them your dignity. I left his office at 11:52 a.m. and sat in my car in the parking garage for 23 minutes, just thinking. That evening, I did something I hadn't done in years. I went through the photo albums in my closet, the ones from when Richard was alive. There we were at Michael's high school graduation in 2005, Michael's wedding in 2019, me smiling in my mother-of-the-groom dress that cost $340, family Christmases, birthdays, vacations, and I realized something. The Jennifer in those early photos looked happy to include me. The Michael in those photos looked at me with respect, with love. When had that changed? Had it been gradual, so slow I didn't notice? Or had there been a moment, a turning point? I thought about what Dorothy had said, what Caroline had said, what Margaret had said. Everyone around me could see what I'd been denying. At 9:37 p.m., I made the call. David, it's Helen Patterson. I've made my decision. Monday, May 1st, 2023, I woke up at 6:15 a.m. with a sense of purpose I hadn't felt in years. I got dressed in gray slacks and a white blouse, professional and serious. I made myself coffee and toast, ate slowly at my kitchen table, and at 8:00 a.m. exactly, I called Linda Morales, a realtor David had recommended. I want to list my house, I told her. Today, if possible. Linda came by at 10:30 a.m. She was a sharp woman in her mid-40s with kind eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. She walked through every room, took notes on her iPad, nodded approvingly at the original hardwood floors, the updated kitchen I'd renovated in 2018 for $23,000. Beautiful home, Helen. Well maintained. I think we can list this at $515,000 and have offers within 2 weeks. How fast can we close once we have a buyer? With a cash buyer, as fast as 14 days. With financing, 30 to 45 days typically. Let's do it. She had the listing agreement drawn up by 1:15 p.m. I signed it right there at my dining room table, my hand steady. We'll have the sign up tomorrow and professional photos taken Wednesday, Linda said. This house will move fast, Helen. Be prepared. Michael and Jennifer were both at work. They had no idea what I'd set in motion. That evening at dinner, I said nothing. We ate the chicken and rice I'd made small talk about their day, and I watched them. Really watched them. Michael was scrolling through his phone. Jennifer was complaining about her manager at work. Neither of them asked about my day. Neither of them noticed the realtor's business card sitting on the counter. The next morning, Tuesday, May the 2nd, at 7:43 a.m., the for sale sign went up in my front yard. I was standing at the living room window when Jennifer left for work at 8:15 a.m. She walked right past it, didn't even glance at the yard, got in her car, and drove away. Michael left at 8:40 a.m. He stopped. I watched him stare at the sign, then look back at the house, confusion on his face. He pulled out his phone, and 30 seconds later, mine rang. Mom? What's going on? There's a for sale sign in the yard. I'm selling the house, Michael. Silence. Then, what? You're joking. I'm not joking. The house is officially listed as of yesterday. But we live here. Where are we supposed to go? I don't know, honey, but you're both adults with jobs. You'll figure it out. Mom, we can't afford rent in Portland right now. We're still saving for a down payment. You've been saving for 4 years, Michael. You've been living here rent-free for 3.5 years. I've given you every opportunity to save. I need to talk to you about this. I'll come home at lunch. I'll be here. He hung up. I stood there, my heart pounding, adrenaline coursing through me. It was done. There was no taking it back now. Michael came home at 12:30 p.m. Jennifer was with him, her face red with anger. They found me in the kitchen, calmly eating a sandwich. Helen, what the hell is going on? Jennifer demanded, not bothering with pleasantries. I'm selling my house. Your house. We live here too. You've been living here as my guests, non-paying guests, and I've decided it's time for a change. Michael sat down at the table, his head in his hands. Mom, I don't understand. Why didn't you talk to us about this? The same reason you didn't talk to me before suggesting I go to a nursing home. The words dropped like a bomb. Jennifer's face went white. Michael's head snapped up. What? He said. What are you talking about? March 21st, a Tuesday night, 9:47 p.m., I heard you two talking in your bedroom about sending me to Sunny Acres. Jennifer's mouth opened and closed. You were eavesdropping? I was standing in my own hallway about to offer you tea, and I heard my daughter-in-law suggest warehousing me in a nursing home so you could have your life back. Michael looked at Jennifer, shock on his face. Jen, you said that? We were just talking. I didn't mean it seriously. You gave him the name of a specific facility. You said, by the end of the month. That sounds pretty serious to me. I stood up, facing them both. For 3.5 years, I've opened my home to you. I've cooked your meals, cleaned your messes, paid my bills without asking you for a penny. I've helped you financially when you needed it. I've been patient and understanding and generous. My voice was rising now, months of hurt pouring out. And in return, I've been treated like an inconvenience, like a burden, like someone whose grief doesn't matter, whose plans don't matter, whose dignity doesn't matter. Mom, Michael started. I'm not finished. Hidden car keys so I missed my friend's birthday. Kicked out of my own living room. Asked to pay utilities in a house I own outright. Told to stay in my room when I'm sick. Made to feel guilty for existing in my own home. Jennifer crossed her arms. You're being dramatic. Am I? Tell me, Jennifer, what have you contributed to this household besides complaints and disrespect? We've contributed plenty. Name one thing. One financial contribution. One bill you've paid. 1 month of rent. Silence. Michael's face crumbled. Mom, I'm so sorry. I didn't see how bad it was. That's the problem, Michael. You didn't see. You stopped seeing me as your mother and started seeing me as part of the furniture. Jennifer's tone turned cold. Fine. You want us out? We'll leave. But don't expect Michael to forgive you for this. You're tearing this family apart. I looked at my son. I'm not tearing anything apart. I'm simply taking back what's mine. You have until the house sells to find somewhere else to live. Based on what my realtor says, that gives you about 2 to 4 weeks. Michael's phone rang, then Jennifer's, then mine. The listing had gone live online at noon. The calls were already starting. I still wonder to this day if I did the right thing. What would you have done in my shoes? Would you have stood up for yourself? Or would you have kept sacrificing, hoping things would change? The house sold in 11 days. 11 days. I could barely believe it when Linda called with the news. A cash buyer, a young couple from California relocating to Portland for work, offered $522,000, $7,000 more than asking price. They loved the hardwood floors, the updated kitchen, the garden I'd spent decades nurturing. We closed on June 9th, 2023, exactly 39 days after I'd made that phone call to David. Those 39 days felt like both an eternity and a blink. During those 39 days, Michael and Jennifer scrambled to find a place to live. I watched them hunched over laptops every evening, scrolling through rental listings with increasingly desperate expressions. The reality of Portland's rental market hit them hard. 1-bedroom apartments were going for $1,800 a month. 2 bedrooms ranged from $2,200 to $2,800. Plus first month, last month, and security deposit, they needed nearly $8,000 just to move in somewhere. Some landlords were asking for proof of income at 3 times the monthly rent. They didn't have it. Not the savings, not the proof, not the plan. Michael came to me 3 separate times, asking if I'd reconsider, asking if I'd help them with moving costs, asking if we could work things out. The first time was 2 days after I listed the house. He caught me in the kitchen, his eyes red like he'd been crying. Mom, please, can't we just talk about this? The second time was a week later, more desperate. We'll start paying rent, whatever you want. The third time was 4 days before closing, almost begging. Just loan us the deposit money. We'll pay you back. Each time my answer was the same, though it got harder each time. I'm sorry, but my decision is final. Jennifer stopped speaking to me entirely. She'd walk past me in the house like I didn't exist, her face a mask of cold fury. She wouldn't even make eye contact, which, ironically, was exactly how she'd been treating me for years. The difference was now I noticed. Now it didn't hurt because I knew it was temporary. Now I understood that her silence was simply revealing what had always been there. They ended up finding a 2-bedroom apartment in Gresham, a suburb about 30 minutes east of Portland, for $2,100 a month. It was in an older complex, nothing like the spacious house they'd grown accustomed to. Jennifer's mother in Seattle lent them the deposit money, $6,300 total. I wondered if Patricia lectured Jennifer the way she should have years ago. They moved out on June 5th, 4 days before closing, on a gray Sunday morning that threatened rain. Michael barely looked at me as he carried boxes to the U-Haul. His movements were mechanical, defeated. I watched from the living room window as he made trip after trip, loading furniture we'd eaten dinner on together, lamps that had lit our family moments. Jennifer didn't say goodbye. She walked out that door at 2:47 p.m. without a single word, without a glance back, carrying the last box to the truck. The door didn't slam. It just closed. Quietly. Finally. I closed on the house on a Friday afternoon at 3:15 p.m. Walked out of the title company with a check for $478,340 after all fees and commissions. The title officer, a kind woman named Susan, congratulated me. I stood on the sidewalk in the June sunshine, holding that check, the warm breeze on my face, and felt free. Genuinely completely free. The weight that had been pressing on my chest for years was gone. I bought a beautiful 2-bedroom condo in Beaverton, 1,200 square feet, with a view of the mountains for $285,000. Cash, no mortgage. No monthly payments except the $340 HOA fee. I had $193,340 left over, which I put into investments and savings for my retirement. Financial security I'd never had before. For the first time in 3.5 years, I lived alone. And it was glorious. It was everything I'd dreamed of and more. I decorated exactly how I wanted. Soft blues and grays, the colors Jennifer had always vetoed. I hung photos of Richard everywhere. I cooked meals just for myself, whatever I was craving, whenever I wanted. I had friends over whenever I felt like it. Dorothy came for tea every Tuesday. Caroline visited from Eugene once a month. I walked around in my pajamas all day if I wanted to. I left dishes in the sink overnight without judgment. My home was mine again in every sense of the word. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn. A twist I never saw coming. About 6 weeks after I moved into my condo, in late July 2023, I was at the grocery store comparing prices on coffee in aisle 7 when I ran into Jennifer's mother, Patricia. She was pushing a cart with a single bag of groceries, and she looked uncomfortable the moment she saw me. Her eyes darted away, then back. "Helen," she said stiffly, her voice tight. "Patricia, how are you?" I tried to sound neutral, kind even. She hesitated, shifting her weight from foot to foot. Then, "I need to tell you something. Jennifer and Michael separated 3 weeks ago." My stomach dropped. The coffee can in my hand suddenly felt heavy. "What?" "She moved out. Apparently once they had to actually pay rent and bills, once the reality of their financial situation hit, they started fighting constantly about money. About whose fault it was that they didn't have savings. About who was responsible for everything falling apart." Patricia's voice was bitter. "Jennifer blamed Michael for not standing up to you. Michael blamed Jennifer for how she treated you. Every conversation turned into a screaming match. It all fell apart pretty quickly. Where is Michael now?" "Still in that apartment in Gresham, last I heard. Struggling to afford the $2,100 rent on his own. He's picking up extra freelance work, but it's hard." Patricia paused, her eyes meeting mine directly for the first time. Then she added quietly, almost a whisper, "I never liked how Jennifer treated you. I want you to know that. I saw it, and I should have said something. I raised her better than that. I'm ashamed of her behavior." I thanked her, my voice catching, and finished my shopping in a daze, barely remembering what I put in my cart. That evening, after making myself dinner and sitting with the news for hours, I called Michael. He answered on the 4th ring. "Hello, Mom." Just those 2 words, but I could hear everything in them. His voice sounded tired, defeated, hollow. We talked for 47 minutes. He apologized, really apologized, for everything. Not the surface-level sorry he'd given before, but deep, genuine remorse. He explained that being with Jennifer had slowly changed him, made him see me through her eyes rather than his own. She'd make little comments, about how you were overstepping or being controlling or too involved, and I started believing her instead of trusting my own feelings. He admitted he'd been spineless, weak, too afraid of conflict to defend me. "I chose keeping the peace with her over protecting you, and that's unforgivable. I miss you, Mom," he said, his voice breaking. "I miss our relationship. I miss who we used to be. I know I don't deserve your forgiveness, but I'm asking for it anyway. Not because I think I've earned it, but because I can't move forward without at least trying." I thought about Richard, about what he would have wanted, about whether love means accepting mistreatment or whether it means teaching people how to treat you, about second chances and boundaries. "I forgive you, Michael," I said finally, the words coming from somewhere deep. "But things can't go back to how they were. We need to build something new, something based on mutual respect, honest communication, and clear boundaries. We've been slowly rebuilding our relationship since then. It's not perfect, and it probably never will be, but it's real. We meet for lunch twice a month at a diner halfway between our homes. He came to my condo for Thanksgiving 2023, just the two of us, and we cooked together like we used to when he was young. We made Richard's pot roast. We laughed. We cried a little. He's learned to appreciate what he took for granted. He tells me now, frequently, how much he values our relationship. As for Jennifer, she disappeared from our lives completely. Patricia told me she moved back to Seattle, lived with her for 3 uncomfortable months, then heard she'd moved to Arizona with a new boyfriend she'd met online. Michael has no contact with her whatsoever. She blocked him on everything. The divorce was finalized in March 2024. Michael said the paperwork came in the mail, and he signed it without hesitation. So what did I learn from all of this? What wisdom can I share after living through this painful, transformative experience? First, your kindness is not weakness, but letting people exploit your kindness is. There's a difference between being generous and being a doormat. I spent years confusing the two, thinking that love meant unlimited tolerance. Second, you teach people how to treat you. Every time I accepted disrespect without consequence, I was telling them it was okay. I was giving them permission to continue. My silence was approval. Third, family doesn't mean accepting abuse. Blood relation doesn't entitle anyone to treat you poorly. Love should elevate both people, not diminish one. Real family respects you. Fourth, sometimes the most loving thing you can do is set a boundary. By selling that house, I forced Michael to see what he'd become. That awareness, that crisis, saved our relationship in the long run. Fifth, you're never too old to start over. At 67 years old, I completely changed my living situation, stood up for myself, and created a new life. Age is not an excuse to accept less than you deserve. It's never too late. Sixth, trust your gut. Every person who loved me saw what was happening and tried to warn me. Dorothy, Caroline, Margaret, even Patricia. I ignored them all because I wanted to believe everything was fine. Listen to the people who truly care about you. They see what you can't. Seventh, your home should be your sanctuary, not your prison. If you don't feel peace in your own space, something needs to change. You deserve to feel comfortable in your own home. If you're in a situation right now where someone is taking advantage of you, where you're being disrespected in your own home, where your generosity is being exploited and your kindness is being mistaken for weakness, I want you to know, you have power. You have options. You deserve better. You deserve respect. It won't be easy. Standing up for yourself never is, especially with family. There will be guilt, there will be conflict, there will be people who tell you you're being selfish or cruel or unforgiving. But on the other side of that hard conversation, that difficult decision, that moment of courage, is freedom, is peace, is a life where you're not shrinking yourself to make room for people who don't appreciate you, is a life where you matter. I'm 69 years old now. I've been in my condo for almost 2 years. I have my dignity back. I have my self-respect back. I have a relationship with my son that's healthier than it's been in 5 years. I have genuine peace. And I sleep peacefully every night in my own bed, in my own home, where nobody makes me feel like I'm in the way, where nobody treats me like a burden or an inconvenience. That's worth everything. That's worth the pain, the conflict, the hard decisions. Did I do the right thing? Looking back, yes. Absolutely yes. Without a single doubt. I wish I'd done it sooner. And you? What would you have done? Are you living with someone who takes you for granted? Are you sacrificing your peace for someone who doesn't respect your sacrifice? Leave your like so I know this story touched you, and subscribe to the channel because I'll be sharing more stories of courage, of standing up for yourself, of choosing yourself when everyone else expects you to keep giving. Tell me in the comments, have you ever had to make a hard choice between family and self-respect? How did it turn out? I read every single comment, and your stories inspire me. Thank you for listening to mine.